Today, we are going to be creating a beautiful scrapbook layout that will also work as a wedding guest book. Now, before we get started, make sure, of course, that you give this video a thumbs up, that you subscribe to our channel, and hit those bell notifications so that you don't miss any of our videos. Let's go ahead and take a look at the artwork we'll be creating. So here we have, which is essentially just a 2-page scrapbooking layout, but we have created this to work in a wedding guest book. So you can see here that the design is very simple, but still so beautiful. The focus on this layout is on the photos and then all of this white space. And the white space on this layout is really important in this instance because we are using these in a guest book for a wedding. So as you can see, it provides all of this space for people to go ahead and sign the guest book, and then you can put it in your album after and have that as part of your wedding scrapbook. So this is really easy to create. One of the first things that I do when I create a book like this is to take a look at my colors. And for this, I chose very neutral colors. You can see that I've just used blacks and whites primarily, and even the pinks here that I've used are more neutrals than real colors. And that's because sometimes I'm not certain what colors the bride will be using, if these photos would be in color or not. So I'll just show you that color palette so you can see this is kind of what I decided on, because I'm just not sure what these photos will look like, and I want their photos to look perfect on these layouts, of course, because they're going to go in their scrapbooks after as well. So I typically try to find something neutral unless I know the exact colors of the wedding. So that's where I started on this one. And again, I've added some cardstock in, but I've even tried to keep that neutral as well. I've also kept this design very simple. You can see that there's enough on here so that it's really drawing attention here. The horizontal design is drawing attention to these photos, but it's simple because I want to have all of this space along the outside for people to give their wishes to the bride and groom. So let's go ahead and see how easy these are to create. I'm just going to grab some papers to start with. Again, I've got these blacks and whites just because I think that these will be easy to work with. I've picked a couple to give it a little pop around the photo. I've picked a couple of colors of cardstock, but again, I consider these more neutral. And then I have some solid cardstocks as well. Now, the other thing that I've added to these layouts is just some stickers, and these ones obviously are kind of have a wedding theme, which work great for this project. And I also like these because they are primarily white and black, which will allow me to personalize them a little bit to match the pages that I'm creating. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is start with this piece of paper here, which I'll call this black one with kind of white diamonds on it. And I need a couple pieces cut from this, so I'm just going to grab my 12-inch cutter. And I want to cut a couple of strips from here. I'm going to have them 2.5 inches. So I'll go ahead and put this in at 2.5 inches and make this cut. And then I want this to be 6 inches long. So that right there is just perfect. And that's really all that I need from that piece. Now, the next thing I want to do is dovetail these. Dovetailing is a big part of what I've done on these layouts. And you can see it here. It just adds so much to the page just by this one little technique that I've used. And so the next thing I'll do is dovetail these. And I like to do this while I have my cutter out because I can just set it here to see the measurements, because I like to find a center point. I'm just going to grab my scissors and I'm going to use this halfway point, which is 1.25 inches in, and I'm going to make a cut up. And so I've made this cut up, and then I come from the corner to that center point to give me a nice even dovetail that looks like this. Now, easy way for me to go ahead and create the second one is just by taking it and setting it on top of this one, and then I can just follow the same cut line here so that they're even. So a dovetail is something that's so easy. Everyone has their scissors handy while you're scrapbooking, and it just adds so much to that page. Like I said, it just adds some visual interest instead of just having a solid rectangle there. So there's our first piece. The next one I want to do is I want to actually grab that piece again and use the reverse side of it. So I want to use this floral side. So this was one side, this is the other, and I'm going to cut another strip. Let's cut this one at about 1 inch. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create varying pieces. So as you see on that sample, here I have varying pieces here that will layer. And that's what I'm trying to do. Various thicknesses, various designs, and they're all gonna layer here together. So this one I wanna make just about 1 inch, and then I'm gonna cut it to 1.5 inches. So it's just a tiny little piece here, and I'm gonna make 2 of those. And again, this is because I want different widths and different lengths that I'm going to go ahead and layer. And the same thing with this one, I'm going to dovetail this as well. So I do the same thing. I use the ruler here that's on my cutter to go ahead and get the halfway point. And then I'm going to make that little slit up and then go in from the corners to that point. And then I'll use this as my template to go ahead and cut the other piece so they match. So easy, but such a fun little detail. And there we have that one. And I'll use the floral side on this one. Okay, next up I'm going to go ahead and do this piece here. Again, this one is black and white. This one's more white with the black accents on it. The first thing I'm going to do is use this little piece on the top because I think this will work perfectly. Again, it gives me another width, another length to kind of design on this page. So I'm going to use this one here, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut this in half. So I'm going to make it even thinner. So I'll just put this on my trimmer, cut it in half lengthwise because I actually want just a thin little piece here. So I have this now. And then I'm only going to need these about 5 inches long. So I'll go ahead and cut that one and this one. So I'm just adding again to the variety of the lengths and the widths of the pieces that I'm going to stack together. So I have these two now. And then I'll go ahead and put these over in my pile for when we're ready to assemble. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is come back to this piece of paper and I'm going to cut another strip, and I want this one about 1.5 inches. So there, that gives me another varying thickness here. And then I'll cut this one down to 5 inches long. Make 2 of them, of course, because this is a 2-page layout for this guest book that we're going to do. And then I want to dovetail this one as well. So again, just use my little measuring tape here down at the bottom of my cutter, find that halfway point, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut up and then cut in from each side to do that dovetail. And then I'll use this one as my template on here to make sure that I have 2 pieces that are identical. One will be for the left-hand page and one will be for the right-hand page. And I will be using these ones on this little burst side. Okay, next piece of paper that I'm going to go ahead and use is this grid piece. And I'm going to cut a thin strip of this one. So let's see, I want this one about 3/4 of an inch. So 3/4 of an inch. And then I want it just 3 inches long. And this I'm going to use and keep square like this because this will add a little bit of different visual interest as I build this layout. So that was easy enough. I've got those 4 pieces all cut and ready to go on. So now I'm going to go ahead and start with my cardstock. Remember, this is really more of a neutral. And I'm going to show you, you see such a small piece of this in the actual finished artwork, but it still does give that photo a nice little pop. So I'm going to cut this first down to 6 inches. And I'm just making this big enough to fit around the photos that I'm using. So I'm going to make this 6 inches and then I'm going to cut it to 3 7/8. And I want to do 2 of these pieces. So there's my first one. So I have 2 of those, one for each page, of course. And I'll set those aside for when we're ready to create. And then I'm going to do the same type of thing with this lighter piece. Now you do see a little bit more of this in the finished artwork. You can see it here. But again, it's so light that it's really working like a neutral in this for me. So this one I'm going to cut to 6 3/8. I'll just have this out as I make my cut here. 6 3/8 and make that cut. And then I'm going to turn this and cut it to 4 inches. And I'm going to do this twice as well. Now the last part that I'm going to go ahead and cut is the white cardstock. And this is used just on that black base. It just kind of sets the whole layout. And this is also, of course, where everyone is going to sign. So this I'm going to cut to 11 1/2 by 11 3/4. And I'm going to do that to 2 pieces because remember, we're creating basically a 2-page layout. So again, that's 11 1/2. And then I'm going to turn that and cut it to 11 3/4. So really simple cutting on this, as I'm sure you could tell. That went really fast, so simple. And now we're going to go ahead and create these layouts. I'm going to bring in my Versa mats to work on, just because I like to have these to be able to kind of place things as I create them. And it helps me with measurements as well. And I'm just going to do 1 page at a time. So while I do that, I'm going to have the other page here for you so you can easily see what I'm creating. So I'm just going to start with this black base. And then remember, the white is what comes on next. And this is really where all of that place for people to sign comes in. And this is going to go, let's see, just get it on there, right? It's going to go this way, and it goes flush to this right-hand side. So flush to the right-hand side because this is where the pages will meet in the center. So I'm purposely doing that. I'm just going to put some regular adhesive on the back here. Again, I'm going to put it flush to this side, and I'm centering it from top to bottom as well. And that black just gives it a nice finished edge. But you still have so much room here for all of these signatures. After that, I'm going to go ahead and start with doing my photo mat pieces. And so I'll start with this one first. I'm just going to put regular adhesive on this. And this is about 2 3/4 inches from the bottom of the page. So it's right about there. And again, it's flush to this right-hand edge. And then after that, my second mat's going to come in here, and you can see that it just creates this very small edge around the outside of it. Of course, my photo would go inside of this. So here's where the photo would go. And now I'm just going to start creating this fun little look over here. And I'm going to do that by grabbing the pieces that we cut earlier. So I'm going to start with this grid piece and this grid piece, which is really neat because it makes it look like there's a full piece behind here. But in fact, it's just these little strips that we cut. So I'll start with this one. And I'm going to put this down here. You can see it doesn't go all the way down to the bottom here. This bottom edge of it is about 3 1/4 inches or so. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're just going to really layer these all in here. And then I'm actually going to do this top piece as well. Same thing, it doesn't go all the way to the top. It's just kind of like it's coming out the side of this photo mat. So I think I'll do that one right about there. After that, the next one I'm going to piece is this large piece that we cut. And this is where that dovetailing starts to come into play here. You can see it looks so nice up against that white background. So this one goes next, and I think I'll just put this one here because I'm just kind of building this fun wall of paper here along the side. And then after that, I think I'm actually going to do the small strip, this one here. And I'm just going to put some regular adhesive on this one as well. Same thing, these are just lining up right up against this photo mat. And this, I think, is where you can really start to see this all come together. So the combination of the different patterns and things that I've used, with some of them being straight edges, some of them being dovetailed, is what really makes this look so beautiful. I think I'll do this one next, which I've dovetailed. I'm just going to put some regular adhesive on this one as well. And I'm going to have this go right in here. So it does overlap this one a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is take my scissors, actually, because I have this one cut as a straight edge right now. And I'm just going to have this kind of go at an angle into that piece that I have dovetailed, just to give that a little bit of interest there as well. And then I think I'll finish this layer up with the tiny one. Remember, I cut these all at varying widths and lengths to just have a lot of different looks going on here over on the side. And I have this small piece left. So I think I'll just do this one and kind of let that cover these two. So it goes over both of them just a little bit. And again, that's another dovetailed piece there. And you can see how it looks. It catches a little bit of this paper and a little bit of that paper there. And that's how easy the base of this is. So fast and easy, right? So I'm going to go ahead and do the other side now. I'm going to bring that in so you can see that as well. So you see what we're working with as we create this. Same thing, just that black 12 by 12 base. Really simple. I'm going to grab that white daisy cardstock. And I like to just get it positioned in the direction that I want it on here before I start putting my adhesive on. So that's how it will go. So where the other one went flush to the right side, this one's going to go flush. I'm going to do things flush to the left side. So I'll put some regular adhesive on here. And again, this one's going to go flush to the left-hand side, and I'm centering it from top to bottom. So get that on there where I want it. And then go ahead and lay that down. And we're going to assemble this really just like we did the other side. So I'm going to grab first that lighter colored photo mat. And this is 2 3/4 inches from the bottom, flush to the left-hand side, just like we did. And then I'm going to do the color that goes inside of there to give it a little pop. And then remember, this is the piece that the photo mat would then go on, because the photo would go on. The photo is really what we want all eyes on this, right? And I've just kind of centered that piece. And then I'm going to build this fun little kind of wall of paper again. And it's going to look just like it did on that last page. So I'm just going to kind of get these pieces placed. And I like to lay things out a little bit so that if I want to move them around, I can, and so that they look how I want them to look. So a lot of times I'll just place my pieces down before I start adhering them. And then just like the last time, I'm going to do this piece next with the dovetail and line this one right up here. And then after that, I'm going to do that zip strip. Remember, this was the zip strip that I cut in half, which I really love that we did that, because it's just the solid of this up against this more open pattern here, I think looks really nice. And then that last piece that's dovetailed, same thing, we'll attach this one down, and I'm going to let it overlap this top piece. And same thing here, I'm going to give this one just a little trim with my scissors. And then we use the tiny piece to just kind of overlap these two here. I mean, this is such a simple pattern, but these dovetails, you can see, really do just add so much to what could just be a rectangular piece of paper there, but just dovetailing it like that really does just add so much. Now I'm going to pull back in my first piece here, just to give us a look at what we have so far. Kind of looks like this, and I'm going to show you some things that you can do to just kind of jazz this up a little bit now that we've made it to this point. So I'm going to use some foam tape. So you want to have some foam tape handy, and I'm also going to use these stickers Remember I talked about having these neutral stickers and that they work really well because then I could go ahead and color them or make them work with the wedding pictures that I'm using here. So I like to create small little kind of clusters of things to add a little something to this because again, the hero of this is going to be these photos and all the signatures on here. So I might take something like this and I'm going to put some foam tape on the back of it to give it dimension. Just to give it a little bit of pop. And I'll attach this up in the corner. And I like to do this in a way that the photos, of course, can still be inserted underneath this, right? So I'll just put it up here and over to the side a little bit. And then I think I'll go back in and I think I could use another sticker right in here. And so Picture Perfect works for me. And so this one, I think I'll just kind of lay like this. Of course, if you're making yours, you want to make sure to go ahead and not stick down that sticker because you want to be able to put a photo in. So a lot of times I'll just take a little anti-static pouch like this and just take the stickiness off the back of that. So you have that little sticker there. I think I'll go back in here and let's see, do I have a gold? I do. I have a cute little gold sticker here that I might just put this heart here. And I'm just kind of filling in what feels good in this cluster. I think I could also use one of these black hearts here and maybe a little bit of this. And this part, there really is no rules, right? I'm just creating as I feel this looks good. And I think that this is a nice little cluster that's created up there. And then I think I want to do something down here as well to kind of balance that. So down here, I think I'll use the This Is Us. And same thing, I'm going to use this, it's a sticker, but I want to add some dimension to it. So to do that, I'm going to add some foam tape to the back. And then I'm going to use that anti-static pouch to just take off some of the stickiness so that the stickiness is only where I want it on this, and that's going to be where I have that foam tape. And same thing, all I'm going to do is build a little cluster down here because I want to decorate this, right? I want it to look beautiful, of course, because it's eventually going to go into a scrapbook, and I want when people are signing this, I want it to look beautiful. Of course, when it's out as a guest book, I want it to be something that the bride and groom treasure. I want it to be a gift for them. So I want all of those things, but I also want to make sure that I leave a lot of white space because the purpose of this is for them to have a guest book. So I'm going to add a couple of leaves here, and then I think I'll go in with one of these little gold pieces. I'm going to take my anti-static pouch and put that on here so that really the only part that is sticky is this stem because I want them to be able to slide their photos right under here. And then I think I'll do the same thing that I did before. I'm just going to add some bits and pieces. I think I'll do heart down here as well. And maybe this black heart. Just look through, see what you have to work with, and see really just what feels good in this space. I think I'll also add this little flower cluster as well. And you can see I'm just kind of filling this in and just trying to balance what I've done up here. I think I'll do another little gold piece as well. Just slide this one under here. I think then I'm happy with that. And then I think I'm just going to do a little something, since I have Picture Perfect here, I think I want to add just a little something up here, and I'll just use this. Now, one of the nice things about some of these stickers that you can see as well is they also have that dovetailing. And so it really ties them in so nice to the dovetailing that I've done on this page as well. Okay, let's see. I think I'm just going to add one more thing. I'm just grabbing one more sticker here, and I'm just going to slide this one up under here and just have that kind of peeking out just there on the bottom. So fast, so easy, but just this gorgeous, not only scrapbooking layout, but in this instance, this guest book that people can use for their wedding and have signatures on. Now I want to show you the finished project again to show you a couple more things that I did on this one that I think just added a little bit more and really finished these pages off so beautifully. You can see I've added some gems up in here. I've also colored some of these flowers with a really light coloring, just using colored pencils to just give it a really light color, but still add a little bit of something to those stickers, because remember, they were just black and white. I've also added some little glitter to them just to, again, make them pop a little bit and tie that gold into the gold that's shown here on some of the stickers. So just very little touches that just really pumped it up just a little bit more. Now I want to show you some other examples of this as well that we've created here. So here's another one. Now you can see this one, we actually knew that we wanted to use this floral in this instance. So if you know the colors specifically that you want, you could easily incorporate them in like we have on this one. But you can see that the same basic principles apply here. You've got some paper here, horizontal. We've dovetailed some pieces on this as well to give a little visual interest there. But the main part, of course, is the photos, and then all of this room for the guests to be able to write their messages to the bride and groom. Here's another one, and you can see the layouts on all of these are very similar to the ones that we did. They're typically just horizontal lines coming out from the sides of those pictures so that the photos are the hero of these pages, as are the signatures, where the bride and groom can keep these in their album and have all of these beautiful little sentiments and signatures from the people who were at their wedding. We have another one here. Now this one we've embellished with some flowers, you can see, which are just so cute. Again, we knew the specific colors that we wanted to feature in this one, so we've done a little bit more in terms of the paper on this one. I love too on this one that guests, you can see, signed even right on that decorative paper because it's not too busy. It adds nice decoration to these layouts, but also it provided more space for the guests to be able to write as well. This is another one we've created. Again, you see these same principles over and over again, right? The photos are the heroes, and then there's all this space for people to write their messages. And then last but not least, we have this one here. And you'll notice they all have this same kind of thing where we ground that white paper where people are going to be signing by a color behind it. In this instance, it's a blue. In our sample today, we used a black. But just such a great way to be able to create not only a gift for a couple in this really purposeful product that you've created for them, being a guest book, but also something that they can cherish for years to come in their album. So creating a guest book and scrapbook all in one can really be that simple.